Hello, everybody. Grown Black Folks Talk. By special request of Confidence with Love and Auntie Love, my co-host on Why Aunties. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is ignorance. And we're also, because the video I intended to do, we're going to call this the case of the misunderstood kilt socks, part one, because I'll connect it to something that we know about that just happened after the Super Bowl. But first, let me break down this concept. People think, and this is how Auntie Love and I were having this conversation. People say that ignorance is bliss, and I was talking to her. I've given some thought to this. I've always heard people say that it never made sense because I was raised by men and women who wanted to know about things. And I was also raised by men and women who headed off a lot of problems. They didn't have the problems that other people had because they saw them all the way down the road. My great great grandfather used to tell my father, I've already been down all the potholes in the road that you're going to hit. And if you listen to me, I'll steer you around them. If you don't, you can go hit them. My father told me that story when I was about 13, and I got the message. I didn't always heed the message, but I got it. It kicked in eventually. My grandmother, my mother, people with great foresight. So that never made sense to me. So I was in my 20s, my 30s, it never made sense to me. And then I really thought about it recently, just about the time that Auntie Love asked me to make this video, and I finally realized what it was. I had to think about it in light of the experiences I have had in this last 3 years. Ignorance is ignorance, but people assume it is blissful because what you don't know about, you're not responsible for. There are too many of us who want to remain irresponsible about things that we really need to manage. When people talk about ignorance is bliss, here's what they're really talking about. Life was good until whatever I didn't know about came and ate me up because I didn't know about it in time. And now I got to deal with this, and now I got to deal with this. But had you sought knowledge a little earlier, you would have been able to head some of that off. The further we get from slavery, the more and more what happens to us as Black people is going to relate to whether or not we get the information that we need. Now, I'm going to give you an excellent example of what I'm talking about, okay? Low stakes, these misunderstood kilt socks. Jermaine Dupri said about it that when he first heard that people were telling each other online that he was wearing lace-up socks that you wear with Sunday school patent leather shoes, like a little girl. He was drunk, so it didn't hit him, and then when he found out, he laughed. How about we notice that the brand name is Louis Vuitton? And because the brand name is Louis Vuitton, the people picking on the socks can't afford them. How about we understand that the most resilient men Europe has ever produced wore skirts called kilts with kilt socks. These are people that the English could not conquer and the Romans could not conquer, other than the Vikings, who were just too far north to be involved with this. But the Vikings couldn't conquer them either. The man from Scotland is the only person, that's the only other group of people that can say what Her Majesty Queen Amanirenas of Kush can say. These are the only men strong enough to say to a Black queen, we understand where you're coming from. Because they're the only other group of people in that section of the world that ever stood off the Roman Empire. The Emperor Hadrian just built a wall. He just couldn't do it. Perhaps you've heard of the movie Braveheart, and you know what happened when the English tried to come up there and take over and got their heads handed to them. So, how about you also understand, Black women, that one of the reasons that you will never be of interest to these men, and you can stop fussing with them about it, is because a Black man wearing a kilt sock is doing that as if he could obtain the power of the powerful, a white man more powerful than the Anglo-Saxon. How about you understand that even if he does not understand that, he is putting on the tokens of European power at the highest level and appearing at a Greco-Roman ceremony in essence, because in the United States, just like most Greco-Roman dominated cultures, sports and nationalist religion are the same thing. sports and imperial religion go together. How about you find that out? How about you find out that the relationship between the Scotch Irish, the Ulster Scots, and almost every president there was, except one term Donald Trump, has had some lineage from the Ulster Scots. And that the reason that you have a Ku Klux Klan structure is because it relates to the Scotch Irish heritage. The reason that you have things going on between the Hatfields and the McCoys and different kinds of groups of white people going after each other for years and years and years. Well, that is their heritage from the clan wars on the Scottish Highlands. How about you recognize, therefore, that the reason that these kilt socks have come back into fashion, complete with the clog type shoe, that bigger, y'all want to talk about rituals. Do you understand the religious rituals that even the pagan Scots must have had to be able to hold off the English and the Romans? Do you understand that you do not even have a reformation in the English speaking world had it not been that the Scottish first held on for that reformation for about a century before anybody else caught on? How about you understand that people in front of you, you want to talk about rituals, putting up tokens, and you just have some idea about what did Beyonce call? Y'all gonna sit up here talking about, she's talking about the Illuminati mess. This is a woman using passages, talking about using passages of scripture for menstrual rags and channeling other spiritualities live on stage. But and you have not learned enough West African religion to even know how serious that is. But you're gonna be sitting up here talking about some lace Sunday school stocks. Now, again, that's one very notable example. Let me give you another one, okay? I'll use myself for an example. To age 36, I did not know that what I needed to do to maintain myself is to make sure that every major meal I eat, half of it needs to be vegetables, and then I can use a quarter and a quarter for everything else, and I would lose weight. Now I'm about 30, 40 pounds down from there. But I was ignorant. I did not know. But once I knew, I was responsible. And see, ignorance was not bliss because I was eating everything I knew to eat. But what I didn't understand was there was too much fruit in my diet, and fruit does add sugar. If you do too much of it, if you don't process sugars terribly well, if they tend to turn instantly to fat, even fruit sugar is too much. I'm drinking fruit juices, and my nutrition is like, you're doing the best you can. And I understand, but do you know that that has as much? That has 13 tablespoons. This is how much sugar that has in it. Later on, do you know that if you eat your vegetables and your proteins first and you eat your starches, you can keep blood sugar spikes under control? And so the sugar doesn't go immediately, the starches and the sugars don't turn immediately into fat on you. Did you know that? See, before I knew it wasn't bliss because I was trying hard to find out. But you got to look at the women that you know, the men and women that you know that don't make it to older ages and didn't make it to 43 because ignorance was bliss till it came and got them. There are foods I can't eat now because my body no longer tolerates them as food because I've been off them for so long. And if I try, my heart just starts going bumpity, bumpity, bump. Like, what have you just done? So now I know what's messing me up. I didn't before. I was just dealing with the stress and just dealing, figuring all that was going together. Now I know I'm responsible now. But you know what? If I keep exercising and watching my diet, and I can expect to have the longevity of my foreparents. See, because what's happening is it's not me saying before I knew and had a heart attack, life was good, ignorance was bliss. It's I'm using my knowledge to head off issues. If you're listening to me, you have access to Auntie Love, who has put forth the self-confidence for Black women course. Some of you listening to me had an opportunity to take that for free and missed it. You will never get that opportunity again. If you've looked at the website and you've looked at the cost. Nope, not gonna get a chance to do that. It always have over and over. Opportunity knocks and sometimes goes and knocks somewhere else. If you're listening to me, you have access to, within my subscriber circle, you have access to Black women making money. And she's been talking about how to be an upwardly mobile Black woman for a long time. You have access to Mocha Mommy and Sam Reed Bliss. And they have been talking about things you can do in the world to get around the world. And if you truly want to move into things like interracial marriage and how to find a man who has a great deal of money, Mocha Mommy could have told you how to go find a man during the Super Bowl period. How you look for men who are like this, and what sports produce men that are more likely to be peaceful men who, nonetheless, though, if they can follow their teams, have a great deal of money and have a mobile lifestyle and like to travel. These men are available. Something she says all the time: be outside, ladies. And here's where you're outside. You have access to, there are so many. Alicia Renese, the artist, Stephanie Perry, Adelia Bora, Sade, and Rashida Dow. And I include these four together because they're trying to get you off of the Black excellence hamster wheel. They're trying to get you off the American dream hamster wheel. Now, what you do when you get off is up to you. Stephanie, Rashida, and Adelia are saying to you, you better have a passport and get ready. You may not even want to be in this country after 2025, after 2024, depending on what happens with this election. Y'all gonna talk about rituals. Y'all haven't read the Heritage Foundation's plan for 2025 and its crystal fascist rituals that it intends to make the law of the land again. Auntie Love and I have been talking about this on Aunties. Nobody yet has asked for a copy. It's 900 pages. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is ignorance. You have access to True Mystique. Certified AI prompt engineer, cover designer extraordinaire. And while we're on the subject, I will say about that particular cover designer that she is the reason more paperbacks of this book have sold than digital downloads. And then you have me. I have been attempting to put wisdom forth to you on many subjects for a very long time. And I started the playlist for my crypto journey in 2022. And I've done videos about different money issues, talking about, okay, if you want to be hypergamous, there's some things you need to know to be a good partner to a man. And if you don't understand these things, you're not going to have that kind of man. And it has nothing to do with your color or his. It has to do with you're not going to be able to live with him and be a good partner. So you're not going to have access to that. Well, in crypto, you have 2 years in every 4. I've got a video coming out soon that I'll be doing on, and I might put this on as a video over here, but I'll talk about it here, that you have 2 years out of every 4 to earn. You have 2 years out of every 4 to bleed. If you come in at the wrong time, crypto's going to hurt you. The right time is now. You have this kind of information available to you. So we would not have you to be ignorant. This is my Bitcoin nightmare. I'll tell you what it is. And I'll tell you how choosing not to be ignorant helps you stave off those nightmares. Actually, let me put this back up for a minute. This book is how I defeated my Bitcoin nightmare. Here's my Bitcoin nightmare. Actually, my crypto nightmare. My crypto nightmare began in 2021. And it's why I did not even start the My Crypto Journey playlist until 2022. One, realizing that the market, early 2022, realizing that the market was going to continue to collapse. And that although people were still excitedly rushing in, if I told anybody I knew about coming in, I knew they were going to get wrecked. But then knowing that in 2024 and 2025, I could just find some way to figure out what I was going to do to handle myself well. I knew enough to do very, very well. But then my nightmare was waking up in 2026 and being the only person that I knew in my whole circle. And at that time, I was a moderator with Themis and Thal. So my circle encompassed 12,000 people. My nightmare was waking up in the morning in 2026 and having to hide myself and how well I had done. because I would be alone, having known how. And the kind of resentment that people have for you when you know something and you didn't tell them and you left them ignorant. But in 2022, it hadn't occurred to me yet that I knew enough to be able to tell anybody else. So in 2020, as you saw, I started telling folks in my crypto journey playlist, and that's eventually how I got here. Well, guess what? We did a giveaway for a week, and I promoted it. So guess what? I don't have to have that nightmare now. I finished that book on October 30th, 2023. Why? So that I can make it available to as many people as possible. So I don't have to wake up in 2026 feeling like I should have told the people what was going on so more people could be here with me. No, I did my job. Now the question becomes, do people want to make themselves responsible for knowing? Because see, here's the other thing that happens. Whether we talk about the food we eat, the content we take in, the comments we spend our time making, people who choose to remain ignorant ultimately are choosing death. For those of you who choose to wait until 2028 to make all kinds of financial moves, because sooner or later, stock market, housing market is not going to hold on forever. Now, they're doing everything they can to keep it level so that, Joe Biden gets back in office. Obviously, if you pay attention, that's what's happening. But sooner or later, and I've seen charts provided by Mokomame and Black Women Making Money looking at the last century of stock market things. There are certain cycles involved. And so just like the 1920s have a boom after a pandemic, the 2020s are having a boom more or less after a pandemic. But if you know your history, depression and dictators come next if the cycles repeat. Don't know if the next down is going to be that low, but at some point, a lot of things have to wash out of the market. The crypto market will be going down by 2026. For many of you, if you're in the position that you're in already, you are talking about not having opportunities to be able to grow. If you are not taking opportunities to learn how to grow your income stream now, we're at least looking at the death of your opportunities to do these things. Now, crypto theoretically will come back in 2028, but we don't even know if crypto can withstand something like a second Great Depression. We just don't know that yet. We don't know if people who do not have options, should the Heritage Foundation have enough Republicans in place to begin enacting its program toward Black women, it sees us as nothing but baby creators out of wedlock and intends to curb that. Any teaching about the history of Black people that involves telling the truth about some of their foreparents, strictly forbidden. There's a lot in there. And if already people feel empowered, there is I will not call that man a pastor. Andrew Womack is talking about we need a civil war to make sure Trump comes off. Well, he's not going to take up the United States Armed Forces. He's going to take up the most recognizable Democrats. Those are Black women. If you're not aware of that reality and you out here trying to date these white men just because, that's what you're going to walk into. See, ignorance is ignorance. Ignorance is deadly. Ignorance is deadly. Because, if you hit a whole bunch of these at the same time, you get into unrecoverable situations. I need for you, like Auntie Love said to me, I'm going to need you to do this video, and I'm doing it at her request. I'm going to need us, particularly as Black women, particularly as Black women's children. We also have Kiana Putman, Level Up Single Mom, level up how to reclaim your dignity as a single mother. I'm going to need us to read up on some things. I'm going to need us to stop running into these comments and showing people what we don't know about the rest of the world if we think we just going to run out there and live in. I'm going to need y'all to, if you think you're going to make comments about what's going on with people who have access we do not have and would not know how to get, then I'm going to need us to read up on some things. Like, really look at the symbols that have been used in the European and African worlds in the past 500 years so you actually know what you're looking at. I'm going to need us to go ahead and use the resources that content creators around us are making available. I'm going to need us to read up. I'm gonna need us to go ahead and do that. I'm gonna need us to not be ignorant. I'm gonna need us to take responsibility for the right we know about. I'm gonna need us to do that. I keep saying, get your life together because I do not want you to be here. As the Bible says, there's two different things the Bible says in two different places. Paul says to the Thessalonians in one letter, because of the context of the letter, I would not have you to be ignorant. They were in a situation and they were crying and they were all messed up. And Paul said, let me help you get this straightened out. But the Corinthians were out here enjoying the foolery of the world, and about that, Paul finally had to tell them, look, after the first and second admonition, after I've told you twice, if any man be ignorant, he can stay there. Let him be ignorant. A lot of the rest of the world is just laughing now. Other races of people are not going to make the effort to educate us. Why would they educate us if they're in the scarcity mindset to compete with them? Why, even in an abundance mindset, for those who are not ignorant of the actual history of African peoples, would they empower competitors that can defeat them? See, everybody's not ignorant of who Black people actually are. As Auntie Love is always saying about Black women, people want us to be ignorant so they can consume us, so they can harness us like beasts. They do not want us to ever understand the queenly history that we have and that we have the capability to rule and reign and right the ship on many things. And if you look at history carefully, we actually have done that. Even in the United States of America, many times, if things got right, Black women were behind it. But see, if you don't know that, if you are ignorant, you are not blissful. You are listening to people tell you that you're a certain age and a certain weight and a certain color. You are useless because you're ignorant of the foolery that they're talking because you're not learned enough in what you should be learned in. And this is why you consent to situations that put you here. This is why you consent to situations that stifle you and your children from having this. And the same goes for the men. You can wear a kilt sock all you want. the European power does not transfer. And of course, every so often, a billionaire is turned into a millionaire just so the point is made. I would not have you to be ignorant, brothers and sisters. Ignorance is not bliss, it's death in a deadly time. Now, we're going to come back to these kilt socks. Because you notice I didn't call anybody stupid yet. We're going to do that in the next video because, see, mean middle school, when you provide ignorance, mean girl middle school behavior and resentment as a way of life, that's when we get to stupid. But I'm going to do that in a separate video because that's really two different topics. Ignorance by itself is not damning. Combine that with an unwillingness to learn because you have eaten up with so much resentment, that'll get you. That'll have you stupidly bopping off into a living hell until you hit the roof. For real. That's the second video. If you understand the wisdom in this video and go and skill up, read up, learn up, to borrow, read up from Auntie Love, skill up from Mocha Mommy and Black Women Making Money. If you apply this video to understand this is what you need to do, then you will not have time to be resenting everybody else. Because there's a reason that we go on and on and on about kilt socks and people's edges who are doing things that we don't have access to do and are spending our time being mad and not learning the skills so that we ever could. That's a different video. Whenever anybody tells you ignorance is bliss, what they're telling you is they love their irresponsibility and they will continue to love it until it eats them alive. And when they look back, the way their life was when they didn't know what was coming to get them, they feel that was blissful. Let me tell you what the real bliss is. The real bliss is when you can confront your fears and look down that road and be able to say, since I know what's up ahead and I'm not ignorant of it, I can change it for myself and many others. That's the real bliss. But it comes with responsibility. I'm not a good marketer. Guess who has to learn? Me. So that you get a chance and that people that you know get a chance. It did not happen in a vacuum. I write every day. I don't market particularly well. And it's February. We haven't even gotten into the real deal yet. I've still got work to do. There's responsibility in heading off that nightmare for me and you too. I have people who have read this book talking about, can you do a video on this? Can you do a video on this? And I have to go do this to make sure the people are educated because, again, I am heading off my personal nightmare. In addition to my personal dream of you being out there and able to be resourced and drip with me in 2025, 2026. And instead of being in a total panic because we have missed another grand opportunity and been the last in and the ones who got dumped on again, we're in a different position. But it's not about, because all of you have something within you that you could learn and not be ignorant about how to bring it to the fore. But it's your choice. I would not have you to be ignorant. But if you want to be irresponsible, then you're going to stay ignorant. Because once you know, you have to be responsible. And an awful lot of us stay ignorant just so we don't have to grow up to the responsibility that it takes to know. Because once you know you're responsible, I'm going to need us to get our lives together. Because we are now in a time period. We are now in a time period where this is the state. Playtime is over. So this was the very calm, well-reasoned version. The next one is going to be equally well-reasoned. But even before Auntie Love asked for this video, my spirit was vexed. And one of them old King James words about these kilt socks. But we'll get to that in the next video because I really want to drill down on this topic and we'll come back for the next one. Today's videos, while you are watching these, I am sitting in a meeting in which at work I have had to learn up and skill up so much to even be able to keep up with the kind of decisions. But I have, because of my knowledge base, I can laugh when high value men talk about their little $100,000 a year. That's a small contract for me at my job to approve. You talk about six figures. I handle 9 for my community with the people I work with. And see, in the end, this is why people tell you, as hard as it is sometimes, knowledge is power. And that is what I want for you to have. This is presented with love. Auntie Love requested it, and Auntie D loves you too. I want you to get to the side of having the knowledge so that you can also have the power to head off the nightmares and achieve your stewardship in this earth. You cannot do it ignorant. You have to do it fully armed with knowledge and wisdom. I would not have you to be ignorant. All right. Thank you for watching and goodbye.